Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Niitsitapi, Tsuut'ina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Saatu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is March 6th, 2026. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy hearing Indigenous content by this Saatu Dene ADHD woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. For those who cannot afford to give, I would love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or your questions. Also, giving a review helps whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel that you can go into and subscribe to. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media, or if you want me to come speak. And always remember to share the things you learned to your networks. Oki, nagana go, mekoche chestakom aki. Nara, daga, dekot nagotine siku seradi. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson, and I use they, them pronouns. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11 in Delaney. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clincho Tine Indahe in Saatu Dene, meaning many big dog town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name that had afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo B. Wool from Delaney. His daughter, Alice, is my now late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene, or Saatu Dene, but my Indian Act imposed status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act imposed status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the Indigenous 2S LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socio-economic ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed poverty, racism, gendered violence, and land theft. I'm not a social worker or an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous peoples. But I share my journey as a Dene mom, navigating this colonial, misogynistic, ableist, racist world in 2026. Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from climate change created by colonialism, but it would be a part of a treaty partnership, part of meaningful reconciliation, honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People. As a former geomatics drafter, I'd be happy to teach you more. You can go to nativecalgarian.com for more. I think of all of this today, and I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this British Westminster colonial system named Canada. I hope you all see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation and as a treaty partner. And I am lucky enough to have a guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself in your way?
Uh, Go ahead and tell Lewis is Yaki Marie Walker. Um, I am Mi'kmaq from Nato Wagenig First Nations in New Brunswick. Um, English term is eel ground, but you can call me Mizze. I am a two-spirit student, academic, outreach worker, and I've called Mohkinstsis home since the summer of 1995.
Nice. Well, I'm happy to have you on my show today, and I'm happy to talk to you about our journeys. I didn't even know you identified as two spirits, so I wanted to let you know I'm a straight cis mommy. But what I learned was that my language had to invent the term he and she. So if we're really serious about decolonizing language, then all of us should be they, them. And I think that that helps support those who identify as non-binary as well as our trans community. So I've chosen them just to decolonize my language, and I didn't want to, misrepresent myself, especially to our youth, because I think it's really important that you identify in your way. And I'm honored to be here to, witness you and the next generation, moving through this, navigating through this world. So thank you.
Mm. Well, Alan, thank you.
Yeah, so we kind of connected through Facebook, and I was really excited to really get to know you. And you sent me all sorts of information about yourself. I'm like, how is this person not on my podcast sooner? So, I was hoping we could talk a bit about that. What brought you to Calgary in 2005, you were saying?
1995.
Oh my goodness.
I
1995. That's when I
I
came to Calgary,
know.
actually. I came back to
Oh,
Calgary. I was born here, but I came back to Calgary in 1995.
oh, maybe we were at the airport at the same time. Um, no, but so I my nation is in New Brunswick. My father, William Albert Walker, was from New Brunswick, Eel Ground. Um, well before it was Eel Ground, honestly. He unfortunately was taken from his family at a very young age and sent to a residential school in Sault Ste. Marie, um, and separated from his family. So after he came back from residential school and came back from the war, he situated himself first in Ontario and then somehow migrated to Nova Scotia and became an iron worker. Um, where he met my mom in Ontario, and they just planted roots in Nova Scotia. Um, I was born by my biological mother in Montreal, Canada. My biological mother, who I don't have a relationship with, was unfortunately an addict and unhoused at the time, and literally called um, my parents, her parents, and said, "You need to come get this kid." So my dad came and got me and raised me and adopted me, and unfortunately, our time in Nova Scotia, again being like First Nations family, um, I don't want to get into politics. I haven't been back to Nova Scotia in like over 30 years now, but back then, I don't know if it's changed at all. But Nova Scotia, they weren't very kind to the Mi'kmaq people. Um, So things happened that I'm not ready to talk about publicly. My friends know. But we left Calgary, Nova Scotia, to come to Calgary so I could have better opportunities and opportunities that my parents never had, whether that was like having access to like proper healthcare, education, social life. So they packed up, moved across the country and planted me here. So I always say I traded the the Mi'kmaq birch trees to mile high skyscrapers and was thrown in to a Toptomuk, which is two-eyed seeing.
Hmm. Oh, I love that. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we are getting the benefits of you being here, frankly, because we do need that. And yeah, without getting too much into it, I don't know if that's changed in Nova Scotia from the things I share and the things I read in the news, but also I don't think it's all that great here either. So,
That's a whole other can of worms.
yeah, no
Like
kidding.
when we're talking about treaty and indigenous rights and indigenous voices, um, yeah, the divide is sometimes very scary, and it really sends me back to the early 90s. Like I feel like we're going back in time, and it's not good.
Mm-mm.
So that's why you're starting to hear me more and I'm starting to go out places more because um my dad always said that our voice matters and our voices have the opportunity to be the loudest in the room.
I agree.
And and being raised and like in that mentality of sit down and shut up, um, now in my age, I can't do that anymore. I can't sit down and shut up. I have to honor the words of my father and on the although I'm not super comfortable with it at times, I have to be that loudest voice in the room.
Agreed. I'm with you, my friend. I'm so grateful that you're here and doing that work because I think the more people hear it from all of us, the better. And the other part is too, is that each of us bring a little extra to a conversation. So like, and I think about all the Two-Spirit all across the nation who have just enriched my life and made me see a perspective I was just not in any position to see. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't see it. So to me, every single person, their voice matters. It helps us move forward. And sometimes I don't like, some people's economic takes, but at the same time, that's what moves us forward. Or whatever take, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
just glad you're here to talk about it. So some of the things that you sent me, you have been doing really positive work. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Oh, which hat do you want me to put on?
it?
Like
Whatever one you want
academic.
to start. Yeah, wherever you'd like to
Uh,
start there.
well, let me just position myself to let you know like who I am within the roles of my community now. Um, I'm a fourth year student at the University of Calgary. I study Indigenous studies, mainly Indigenous methodologies and Indigenous psychology. My main topic of interest right now um, is like Indigenous psychology and most importantly, Indigenous epigenetics. Um, Mainly because back in the day when I was diagnosed and like with my mental health and complex PTSD, autism, all those things, um, I started my journey when I was in day hospital. Like I just got out of the hospital, I was in day hospital, and I found myself at the Calgary Public Library reading psychology books. And I would do that on all my days away from day hospital. And to the point where the librarian was like, hey, you know that like students, they can rent out these books for a semester if they need them for school. Because I was going there, like sitting there all day just reading these books. And I looked at her and I'm just like, oh, I'm not a student. I just want to know how my mind works. And and that's when she's like, you're reading at a university level. Like you really should be um utilizing that mind. And the first thing I said was like, oh, well, I'm native. They'll never let me in to post-secondary. And that was mainly because when I graduated from high school in 2003, I'm aging myself. Um, but when I graduated from 2003, I was told to not waste my time. That post-secondary wasn't a place for me, that I should
Ooh.
get work experience and raise a family. And luckily I was able to do both. I raised a family, I took care of my family, and eventually, like later in life, I went on that post-secondary train. Um, I started um, in addiction studies with an Indigenous focus. Um, Throughout the pandemic, I worked outreach. I worked at the Calgary Drop-In Center, and that really made me realize where I was needed, that 3% of Calgary's population is Indigenous, and 60% of that 3% are either unhoused or who live under the poverty line, and live with undiagnosed or unrecognized mental health struggles. So that sent me to the University of Calgary, to where I am now, because I believe like I need to be there. I need to continue climbing that academic ladder so I can help my people more. Um, it's not it's not something where I think I'm gonna get a big fancy job and a big salary because I don't want that. Pretty much anything that's ever given to me, like the majority of it, I donate back to my community
Hmm.
because like I was raised that if we're all not succeeding, if we're all not succeeding, we personally can't succeed.
Yes.
Um, so right now, like I'm a student, I'm a researcher, I'm a methodologist, I'm an outreach worker, I'm a community advocate, I'm a reconciliation worker, I'm a knowledge holder.
Yeah. And you're a
And
published poetry author as well.
not yet, soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Um, but yeah, I love like my poetry is a way of me being my authentic self. Um, without having to worry about academics or citation. I can just write what I'm thinking, write how I see the world. Like if you read any of my poetry, it's very visual. Like I write very visually because that's how I see the world. Um, whether that's like skyscrapers that mimic trees or um or the life within the river. Um, yeah, or like I have a poem called Grief Walks on the Land in Moccasins, which is about residential school denialism. And the grief monster, as I put it.
That's fair.
Um, yeah.
I run a
So
book club, and we're there. Our next book club on Monday is David Robertson's anxiety book, and he calls them little monsters, right? So I'm
yeah.
just kind of reading the way he's describing that feeling. So I've really enjoyed, you know, reading it from his point of view as well. And, you writing these types of things matter. I think it matters that people understand what it is they're dealing with. And we never had published works at all before. Lee Miracle had to literally get a petition and get people to sign to agree to buy a book if she would publish it because the publisher said nobody wants to hear an Indigenous woman's words.
Yeah.
So, that bigger picture that, us having access to each other and being able to read that and knowing that we have this commonality, this experience together, it means the world to me, thanks to you, thanks to David, folks that are taking the time to write that out. I wish I could tell you how much I appreciate you, taking the time to write these things for our youth so that they understand this is what they're experiencing.
That's really important to me because, like, don't get me wrong, I talk to many people on my reconciliation journey because I do believe, like, when I first sat down and spoke with Murray Sinclair back in 2017, 2018, he asked me, he's like, what do you think reconciliation is? And I'm just like, I don't know because I've never seen it.
Hmm.
I've ne I my father never s- my father never saw it. I've never seen it. So how can I expect something that I don't know? So on my journey, I realized that we'll never be able to reach reconciliation if we don't find a common ground and get to know each other. Like we're a culture that's based off of relationship and respect. So how can we move forward together as a nation, both indigenous and non-indigenous, if we don't know one another? So that's been my mission for quite some time is bringing mixed circles, and I'm happy that you're coming to one of my circles. Bringing that mixed um audience together so we can get to know one another. Because this whole concept of allyship isn't possible if we don't know one another, if we don't know what we're fighting for.
Hmm.
And when it comes to our youth, at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to make the changes. It's
Yeah.
not me. It's not going to be me. I'm here to plant the seeds, and they're going to be here to like take care of that crop, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel that. I'm really glad that reconciliation is such a part of your journey. I think it's a part of all of our journeys. I wish it was, I described it as pulling teeth to a person the other day when it came to settlers and their
Yeah.
responsibility and obligation as treaty partners. It's like pulling teeth. And that I will never understand. Obviously, those who are listening to us right now, they're on that journey. They're trying to do that
Hmm.
good work. But it's the majority of Canadians. And I think because we both live in Calgary, we're seeing the ugly of denialism, the ugly
Yeah.
of this separation conversation, in such a different way than the rest of the country. I've actually found across the country that they really minimize what's happening here with separation, ironically, because they
Hmm.
think that Alberta is that crying, whiny wheel that will never be happy. So they don't even consider what First Nations are experiencing in the middle of this, let alone new immigrants. They do focus on the new immigrants the most, as oh, they must be experiencing the most racism. But then the Indigenous erasure and the lack of treaty understanding just shows that we're experiencing the most racism from even the so-called progressives. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. And like that's why in my latest blog that I shared with you, um like I said, like being indigenous in a country that like refuses to acknowledge us or see us or hear us, um, unless it is they have political gain to do so.
or economic. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, or economical gain, um, or like even like personal or religious or emotional gain, because like I've dubbed myself what some people would call a reconciliation fairy, where I'll get like a whole bunch of emails or phone calls or text messages in September to come speak and share my story. I'm just like, no, no, I'm not the reconciliation fairy. I'm here all year round, every day. I live this every day. So if you
Well,
really want to be on that journey, you
yeah.
have to be on it like 12 months of the year.
100%. My book club is about to have their 10-year anniversary, and it is shocking to me how many people have either come or gone or just not bothered. The amount of people that will say to my face, "Oh, I've been meaning to join your book club. It's 10 fucking years." No, you're not. Don't pretend. It's been 10 years. You don't care. Um, and the
Yeah.
same thing with the podcast. Oh, I've been meaning to listen. It's been 8 years. I'm pretty sure it's not on your radar, to be fair. So, it's kind of one of those things that I find it's infuriating. I mean, here it is at the start of March, and our voices are being completely eliminated from this separation conversation. And then worse, I'll hear people say, "Oh, good for your chiefs that they're against this." And it's like, could you maybe show a little more understanding about, treaty and what it's like for the entire indigenous populace, not just those good treaty chiefs, like say it
Yeah.
very patronizing, right? Very much like you good Indians. It's
Yeah,
so
no.
infuriating.
It really is because like let's face it, like even though we live in a culture where hierarchy isn't supposed to be key, unfortunately a lot of colonialism has made it that hierarchy where like I've never talked to a chief unless it was mine, you know. Um but this is Mohkinstsis is my home. Like my roots are here. Of course, my spirit and my soul always will be in Mi'kmaq territory.
Mm.
Um, but this is my home. Um, I've 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 worked with the people here, like elders here, and I love the people here. I love my elders here. Um, and when I speak to non-Indigenous people, I ask them like, do you know what Treaty 7 is? Like, do you know what it is? And like some people are like, oh, well, it's the land we live on. I'm like, no, it's a legal document.
Yeah.
Like all these treaties are legal documents. The only provinces that don't have those like paper treaties is obviously British Columbia and the East Coast because we have peace and friendship treaties, which we still smoke pipes to, and are legally binding. But like Treaty 7 is a piece of paper, a document that both sides signed, and and at the end of the day, the money that like and I don't want like I always go to politics, I'm sorry.
Same.
But like
Don't apologize. We are political beings by existing.
but I say like at the end of the day, all this separation stuff, it's not coming out of my pocket. It's coming out of yours. You know, that's your tax paying money. Um, it is also my tax paying money, but it's yours more so because those are your people,
And
you
your
know?
economic system that you imposed on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, as First Nations people, we're always going to be okay, you know? Like we like look at the things that we survived. And I always want to talk about celebrating the things that we survived, whether that's residential school, Indian day school, the 60s scoop, even to now, like the things that we face in healthcare facilities. I've survived the healthcare facility in Alberta twice now. I almost died twice now. Once in I believe 2019, I had such a bad infection, went to the hospital like 3 or 4 times and was told there was nothing wrong with me, to the point where like my gallbladder was so infected and septic that I was dying. So like that, and then like honestly, last year I had a massive pulmonary embolism because while doing street outreach, I was assaulted downtown here where I live. And my arms and my legs were so beat up that they created blood clots that went through my heart and filled both of my lungs.
Oh my
And
God.
I went to the hospital 3 different times, called 911 twice, and was just sent home, to the point where like I in my apartment building, I passed out. I dropped dead pretty much in the lobby of my apartment building, and my neighbor found me and called 911. And they sent me off to I went to the Foothills. Shout out to the Foothills ICU, for bringing me back to life and and yeah, like so I've been victim of these, but I've also had opportunities within these situations. 'Cause like the doctor that was at the ICU literally came, like the head doctor came and sat with me. He's like, "What can I do so this doesn't happen again to other people?" And he would come to my room almost pretty much every morning, and we would have a discussion.
Hmm. That's
So
good.
like I say like and like I thanked my father because when I was dying, I saw my father at the foot of my bed, and I said like I'm ready to come home. I want to come home. And I saw the doctors on each side of my bed, my family friends at the foot of my bed, and my dad, and he had his arms crossed the way he always did. And he's like, "No, you can't come home yet. You have too much work to do."
Hmm.
And and I think he sent me these doctors to show that I do have more work to do.
Oh, I'm so glad. So glad that worked out that way then. It's
Yeah.
a lot of times it's meant to work out that way. And again, you know, I've tried to do a lot of teachings within the system, but they need to just implement it nationally, their treaty right to health document that they have. It
Yeah.
would save us. The TRC calls to action on health. The national inquiries calls to justice. Like
Hmm.
these recommendations are there. Like I don't know how to help the settler community more. I was replying to one of our native sisters who had questions about the economy. So I replied because it was an indigenous person, and I'm just kind of tired. I'm lucky that we have elders who have gone through the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples and seen the settler community be like, what 444 recommendations? And now you and I are seeing 10 years post TRC, kind of that same attitude, like, what treaties? It's interesting because it's not from a lack of solutions. And so I guess
No,
if
and
somebody's going to pay me to stand in front of them for an hour and talk about the solutions that's right in front of them, like literally Google, it's right there. I don't know how to help
yeah.
you more. You
Yeah,
know?
I can't like I used to do a lot of talks,
Yeah.
mostly with church communities. And it like after a while it's just like, are you not hearing what I'm saying?
No, they're not. I feel that exactly. I have sat in front of the same people, said the same thing, and they have the exact same question. So like I can say the sky is blue until the cows come home, but they won't hear it from me. They clearly need some white person to say, "Hey, did you know the sky is blue?" for them to hear it. And that's racism. That's point blank racism. So we're exhausting ourselves for people who are unwilling to listen. And I think that's kind of the beauty of having the podcast is that it can distance ourselves from that ridiculousness.
Hmm.
So when people say to me on like I'll do a TikTok and they'll say I'd love to hear more, I'd be like, listen to the podcast. If I'm talking about, I'll just talk about Cora Voyager real quick here because we've done her book Restoring.
She was my professor last semester for Indigenous sociology.
There you go. I spent time with her last night because she did an event over at the Alex last night, so I got to hear her presentation. And so, just a great example. Like here she is doing this work for years and years and trying to help us all and giving us books. She actually gave me a book from last night about 100 Indigenous Albertan leaders that she had to publish. Why? Because there was no settler community who understood treaty doing that work, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
anyway, I know we're all out there trying to do that good work. The information's available. She's been on my podcast. I've been really lucky to have her. Now I'll be doing at least another one of her books here shortly. So, it's not from a lack of the information being out there. Everybody has a love fest right now for Wob Canoe. And I'm like, well, have you heard of Eight's Fire on the CBC? And they'll
yeah,
be like, no. And I'll like, well, listen to it. If you love listening to him, listen to that. But it comes
yeah.
back to, are you hearing what we're saying, or do you just like to look at us?
Yeah, no, and like that's why I say like with Indigenous people wearing many hats, some of those hats get like lost in translation, you know? Like especially at the University of Calgary, I feel like I have to be two different people because when I leave the university, I'm well known within my street outreach, my advocacy work. But when I go to the university, I'm just like a small fish in a big pond, you know?
Yeah,
But like with Wob, like people just like, oh, he's just a politician. I'm just like, no, he's not.
yeah. He's a
Like,
knowledge holder. He's a
like
pipe
he's
carrier.
he's taken on that politician hat so he can better help his people and better bring the people together, like treaty people together. But before that, like he's like a son of a chief and like he's a great dancer. Um,
Yep. Yep.
he's a wicked MC.
Yep.
Um,
And married
like
to a powerhouse as well.
yeah,
Like she has her own like well known within the industry too. So it's like we're here. The solutions are in front of you. I don't know how to help settlers more other than, hey, let's read a book together. You know?
yeah, or just like yesterday I had a circle at the university with the Faith and Spirituality Center. Um and like I just treated it as like an ask me anything. If you could ask an Indigenous person something without being judged, ask me. Because especially when it comes to younger people and visitors, like international students, um, a lot of them haven't even met an Indigenous person when it comes to newcomers. So I wanted to like put myself there and be like, ask me anything. If I don't have the answer to it, I'll send you the proper resource to send you down that your own path.
Yeah.
Um, and like we sat there for hours. It was, and like everybody had something to ask, everybody like multiple things to ask. And to be honest, like it gave me a lot of energy that I'm doing the right thing,
That's
you
good.
know?
Yeah.
Because as Indigenous people, we don't like of course I find solace and comfort within my people, like my community. Um, Shout out to Kristen Motherpiece who connected us. Um, but like I find a lot of comfort within my people,
Yeah.
but there's no growth within that comfort. We don't need to reconcile with each other
Mm-mm.
or ourselves. Um, so we need to cross that path to the other side, um, to build that relationship. And and some non-Indigenous communities, um, to be honest, like they're not equipped with those skills of relationship building. It hasn't been a big part of their culture, but it has been for ours.
Yeah.
Like that's why our ancestors gave us these gifts of respect, reciprocity, relationship, and responsibility is because they knew that we would need them
Yeah.
in times like these.
Yeah.
So to say like, oh, well, reconciliation isn't our job, like, well, no, it really isn't. But these skills, these tools, these methodologies that have been passed down by either direct family lineage, like my dad, or ancestral knowledge, those are our responsibilities. Those,
After our ancestors survived all of those ridiculous policies, it's the bare minimum we can do to help the next generation. That's how I look at it. It's like a
yeah.
responsibility is deep-seated to do the work. And so that's why for us, I did not want my daughter growing up ashamed or embarrassed to be Indigenous. And
Mhm.
now that we are really connected through the internet a lot more, and we have learned terminology of how to describe who we are, where we come from, and reconnect with family members that we were purposely disconnected from. There's so much advantage to today's world. And she got to grow up in a city, and especially her high school, they had a smudge room, and
Mhm.
they encouraged her to take part of any indigenous awareness or field trip or anything like that, and they regularly asked her to speak, which she wanted to do, so she did. Things like this, like they have indigenous graduations now, like they never had
Yay!
anything like that when we were going
Yeah.
to school, and so the fact that she can have pride in who she is and understand how many of her relatives, what they survived in order for her to be here.
Yeah.
What a gift. What a gift. And that's all I can do is hope that we push it. And for me, I know for with podcast, it's about being really truthful and honest because like
Mhm.
the media has it's mainly settler controlled. And of the
Mhm.
APTNs that are telling the truth and telling what's going on, there's still like journalistic standards that they have to abide by.
Yeah.
And I think too, so a lot of the undercurrent of racism and colonization like isn't really named. So I tried to do that with all of the media I put out in some capacity. And then also I'm just interested in, the geopolitics, but also national. And I feel like we have a responsibility to know national, provincial, municipal, all the time, on top of our own 364 nations, what's happening there. So I feel like inherently we have to be political and have to know what's going on. So someone like
Yeah.
me, always going around with a petition or whatever, like that's what I have to do in order to honor the treaties that I know I have a obligation and responsibility to, even if the other side doesn't get it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, like it's really true. Like to be to be native in this like in this time is a full-time job just existing.
Yeah.
So like if I could if I could like give a message out to like any indigenous people who feel like they're drowning within like this system or feel invisible, like I just want them to know that they're seen and that they're heard, and I understand. Like I understand that overwhelmingness of feeling like the world's on your shoulders, yet you have no power within it.
Yeah.
Um, And that's really my message. And it breaks my heart. Like I see like the people who live on the streets of downtown Calgary, my Indigenous brothers and sisters and Two-Spirit folks who just sometimes just die sitting there
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to see them. And like even like our own city, like I hate to say it, but like our own like city politics don't talk about us.
Well, I
Like,
For 2 years on this podcast, I railed against the city of Calgary for what they did during that cold snap of taking off the doors of the bus shelters,
yeah,
knowing we would die, knowing there would be amputation. Now we have the data to show that's exactly what happened, and just on deaf ears. And I
yeah,
felt like I was screaming into a void, and nobody was hearing me. And, I always tell my listeners, please share what you know, but I don't see those shares and I don't see that tag, right?
no,
So I feel like that exploitation of listening to our voice, but not comprehending it and certainly
mhm,
not acting on it. So that's why out of the book club that I've had like, a small group of people who are like, we need to act. I'm like, yes, that's the word. We need to
yeah,
act. And so they created the Reconciliation Action Group. We created the Reconciliation Action Group to try to push institutions and people a little more, especially during elections. We always like say, hey, here are
yeah,
questions for you to ask your candidates that are running. And the deafness, the lack of CCs on that email sent to said candidate. It's just so deplorable. But it is Calgary, so I try to like I know we're changing hearts and minds. I get the messages here and there about how
yeah,
we are changing some hearts and minds, and that's why we do it. Bottom line, that's
yeah,
why we have to keep going. But it's a shame. It's a shame that people could do more and choose not to, even if it may seem silly, but why isn't every arena acknowledging the land that they're on, as a treaty partner? The
yeah,
sports call to action are so, open to possibilities.
yeah. When you mentioned the bus shelters,
Mm,
um, it reminded me of a story from last year, if you don't mind me sharing.
of course.
Um, but so I've been working street outreach since I was 17 years old. Um, Back in the day where the core is now, like the core, it used to be Scotia Center, if you remember.
Yeah.
And where the Tim Hortons is now in like where Scotia Center was, um, used to be a Bentley bag store. And I worked there with my friends. And there was this man who would just walk around the core all day. He stayed at the DI at night, and then when they would lead everybody out to like make beds or do whatnot, back then that's like when the tw DI wasn't it wasn't 24 hours then. Like people had to leave during the day mostly. Um, but he would go to the core and walk, and security would often give him a hard time. He was an Indigenous man. Um, and I was 17 years old, and I said, like, if I get him a coffee in the morning, can he stay here till lunch? And then I said, and they were well, if he's a patron, yeah. And so I would go over across the hall. There was an A&W, and I would get him a cup of coffee and sausage and egg. Um, and I would do that, and then lunchtime I would take him around the corner to the Stevens Avenue McDonald's and get him a cheeseburger and fries. I was 17 years old. I didn't have a lot of money. But that would be able to keep him there until close. And I did that every day, like Monday to Friday. I did that. And then over the weekend, I would come down and get him a cup of coffee from Tim Hortons. Um, but I did that until last year. I took one break back when I was like what yeah when like later when I was 17 I went away for the summer and my dad took over and went downtown and took over my shift we like to call it. But last year I saw him. I saw him every week. I would come by and give him a Tim Hortons gift card for the week. And I run this program. I call it for socks for Knox because I make these little bundles of socks, a water bottle, and a snack, and I get on my bike and I pass them out downtown here. Um, but last year I saw him. I'm just like, hey, do you need a pair of socks? Are you hungry? And he's like, yeah, I need a pair of socks. Mine are full of blood. And I said, why are your socks full of blood? In like he took his socks off and they were all necrotic, all of them. He didn't have a health care card. I got him to the Schumer, um, and then got him to the Rocky View, and they amputated all of his toes.
Ugh,
And unfortunately, when he was there, he was also diagnosed with terminal cancer.
ugh,
When he was in the hospital,
yeah,
and I went to him, and I was like, "What do you want to do?"
yeah,
And he's like, I don't know what to do. He was a paranoid schizophrenic as well, which is why he was on
sure.
house. And it's very important to recognize that he wasn't an addict. He wasn't an alcoholic. He didn't use drugs. He was just a paranoid schizophrenic that wasn't medicated.
Yeah,
So he would walk around and he would talk to himself. He never harmed a soul.
sure.
Um, but
Like
he's like,
most schizophrenics, actually. Let's be
yeah,
super clear about that. I know people like to label them as violent, and
and yeah,
they're not.
no.
They're
It's just
just
like
in their own world.
that it's a small group of cases of like the extremists, like the extreme cases that get recognition. But like
Mm,
let's face it, the number of people living with schizophrenia, like you never hear of them.
no.
But he looked at me, he's like, I'm just really tired. And I'm just like, I understand. And I he asked to be Um, he asked to access MAID, and I said, I will do that for you.
Mm,
And because like he didn't have a nation, he didn't have a healthcare card, I paid for everything out of pocket, just to be able to send him home on his own terms.
yeah.
And I call him Walking Man because the name that he lived with, I don't even think it was his real name. I don't think he knew his real name.
I'm
Because
sorry.
he was homeless until he was 17 and he was homeless.
I'm just gonna give a shout out to Ralph Klein for cutting mental health facilities, and I just can't understand how he lived at all understanding the gravity of what he did to people with his policies and all of the MLAs that voted for it. Like I will never understand that. Never.
Like over the years I tried really hard to get him housed. But what always came in between was medication,
Yeah.
you know. And like I would get him into like a program and then that program would like fall off the face of the plan because of funding. So he just gave up.
Yeah.
Um, but I was able to send him home. Um, and when he was dying, he told me, he was like, "You're a good kid, and I hope to
Thanks,
see your dad.
Uncle.
I hope to see your dad when I get home." And
Mm,
like that's like when like that's why when I ask people like when you're walking downtown and you see somebody who's struggling, whether they're on under the influence or not, try to make some eye contact, some soft eye contact. Show them that they're there, that you see them, that they matter. Because that one slight eye contact can save somebody's life. I'm sorry I get emotional, but I've sat with a lot of people over the past 20 years.
tears are healing.
And And sometimes just sitting with somebody and saying, brother, sister, I'm worried about you. And to hear, like, to say that to them, a lot of them are shocked. And like the first thing that they say is like, "Oh, well, you don't know me." I'm just like, "No, I know you. I know you." Um, like we're all in relation. We're all
Yeah.
cousins,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and those are the first words of like helping people take the next step of caring about themselves, is like that sensitivity of like, I don't care like if you use, because I know if you use and you're indigenous, you're using to soften the pain because we can't get the care that we need. Um, and I know that. Like I've like fortunately I've never been addicted to hard drugs. Um, a short amount of time in my teenage years, I drank a little bit too much, but that's past now. But um, I know I like this is like when I was 11 years old when my dad told me I was two-spirit because I was scared because I was seeing my friends get in trouble for being queer in school. But my dad said me, he's like, "You're two-spirit. You were," and we knew that when we brought you home when you were born. Um, it was never a secret. But I thought I didn't know. But he told me like it's your role to take care of people. Like you have the ability to be a mother, a father, a brother, a sister, whatever the people need, you have the skill and the gift to be it. And to me, that's what Two Spirit is being able to sit with the walking mans of the world and help them get to where they need to be, whether that is in the big camp, send them home, or walk them home on their journey, um, or hold their hand while they continue the fight.
I love that. I'm so grateful that he had you in his life.
Me too.
And I'm disappointed in the world that we couldn't do better to give him a better life. I uh I remember growing up and we used to always joke about being sent to Panoka. And then when I got older, I understood the gravity of what Panoka was. And,
Yeah.
and I actually had an old high school friend of mine and her parents actually stayed there in their last days because they had dementia. So, and I have another high school friend who is a nurse who works there. And, she worked in the dementia wing actually. So, but it used to be everybody. Anybody who had mental health issues would go there. And I did meet a schizophrenic who told me positive things about being at that place at one point in time. And it was temporary, but and that was all they needed. But that it was a place to help them. And I just have always felt that we've needed so much more. And especially now that we have an aging population that has so much dementia, that has so many,
Yeah.
undiagnosed autism, undiagnosed, like myself, and other mental health related issues as well. So yeah, I just don't understand when we have the evidence to prove certain things help certain people and we still choose not to do it. Like I can't understand where we lost our humanity as a people. So I appreciate folks like you who take care of people. I live out in the suburbs. So what I do is I get myself my Narcans and I distribute them whenever I'm in community. Even when you're driving, you get people knocking on your window and they'll take them. That's all I
Hmm.
can do. And, it makes me sad. I wish we could do more as a community I wish our taxes meant we helped people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of it
Yeah. I
going to billionaires.
let them die in their piles of money. It means nothing.
Yeah.
Um, like we have spirit, we have soul. That's all that matters. Like that's what's gonna save the world. money's not going to save the world. Money's going to crumble it. And when money does crumble the world, it's going to be the indigenous people to be there and be like, well, I don't need that. I never needed that.
right?
Um, but yeah, like I go through probably about, like keep in mind, I don't work as an outreach worker anymore. I do it on my free time.
Same. Yeah.
Um, but like I go through at least 6 Narcan kits a week
Yeah.
living
I'm
down
not
here.
surprised. No, I'm not
Um,
surprised.
and it's even harder because like when nasal Narcan came out, we fought really hard to have it covered because in the winters, when somebody's wearing 3 pairs of jeans to stay warm, those needles don't work. Um, but yeah, like like I said, like we need to continue to be the loudest voice in the room and eventually and like when we say like we don't know when like where the world's going or what's going on, um like I said, it's not going to be us that change the world. It's not going to be us. It's going to be the young people. It's going to be like the indigenous youth that's with me at the University of Calgary getting those degrees, becoming doctors and lawyers and politicians, the Wob canoes of the future that are gonna change the world. Like I'll probably be long gone when that happens. But I'm prepared to create that path for them and hopefully make it a little bit easier by the time they take that mantle. Um, but like the biggest hope that I can give to like you or anybody who's listening who's just tired and just tired of seeing like nothing happen or our lives be used as political gain to win the vote. Um, Times are changing.
Yeah.
They are changing. We have youth out there that are loud and they're like, look at the things that we're doing. Let's look at the positives. Like we have so many people fighting for us who have platforms like from my nation, like well, from the Mi'kmaq Nation, Pam Palmater,
Hmm.
who is a Mi'kmaq um lawyer who I've connected with through LinkedIn. And I'm just like, look at the things that we're doing. Look at like we're making big changes. Even though it seems like nothing is happening, things are happening.
In 10
It's
years,
just,
I've seen a massive shift.
yes.
Massive. You know, people are recognizing that their inherent racism and,
Hmm.
because of it, starting to see us as people for the first time, literally first time, right? Decades
Yeah.
and decades of us coexisting together, but not seeing us as human, but now are. And I think of Dr. Jane Philpott and her doing that work of creating the first spreadsheet ever of 634 nations and what was going on with their water situation.
Yeah.
I think of her approving Narcan and naloxone so that it's free for
Mm.
Indigenous people. And me trying to utilize that has been its own journey. For folks who follow me on TikTok, I have a whole section on health issues that I've experienced here in the city of Calgary. But at the end of the day, I have it now and I
Hmm.
can keep distributing it to the best of my ability, and as can all First Nations for that matter.
Yeah.
And you're doing that work, so that's what's important now. When I give away those Narcans, it's the settlers who take them who see people as people and
Hmm.
not as people to, I don't know, harbor Narcans in their first aid kit to throw out when they expire, but to actually give to people and to even distribute and help people come back from an overdose. So it's
Yeah.
like these are things that I know we are doing. I know that there are multiple street outreach teams now. There used to
Hmm.
be only one, and it was
Yeah.
controversial, you know. And yes, the safe consumption sites have closed, but we're still working around that the best we can. And I think of
Yeah.
Insight in Vancouver doing that work like 15
Hmm.
years ago, trying to say this is a human right, this is a health right, to have an ability to have clean drugs, clean needles, clean um, a safer spot to use. These things exist, and they didn't
Hmm.
before. So we'll just keep going on. We keep moving that and pushing the barriers and having people see themselves as treaty partners and participating in action when it comes to reconciliation, not just listening
Hmm.
and learning.
No, I think when it comes to reconciliation, I think the listening and the learning part needs to be over, because like people want to sit within that, oh, I'm still learning. I'm just like, well, it's been 10 years.
Yeah,
It's action time. We've
yeah,
given you the time to learn, to get resources. Like we have whole sections in libraries now
yeah.
that never existed when I was a teenager, a kid. Like
Same.
we have elders that sit at the central library, just sit there waiting for people to come in and talk. They have schedules, come in and talk and get to know and learn. So, like, the whole learning and listening, that phase needs to come to an end.
Yeah.
It needs to come to an end because if you haven't, if you haven't gotten on the boat by now, you're not getting on the boat. And
I-
that's my Mi'kmaq coming out. But
yeah.
like it's time to get on the boat. We need to go. It's time to start our journey. And we can't start our journey if we keep on stepping back and walking backwards.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, what a pleasure having you on today. Was there anything else that you'd like to add to today's, knowing you're welcome back anytime?
Oh, just right now, like I just want to leave the message that we are all treaty people, indigenous, non-indigenous. We're all trying to live the same life. We just wear different skin.
Mhm.
We have different lenses. And to like anybody who's not indigenous who hears this and wants to do more, please do more. Like
Yes.
we're like
Yeah.
show up to a circle, go to a powwow, go to a circle dance, do something
Yeah.
where you can feel, because like if you're not in the room with indigenous people, you don't feel that energy.
No.
You don't feel that community by sitting at home and reading a book. Yes, literature is very important for our culture and to keep a hold of like archives and whatnot, but it's not something to solely situate yourself on. Get out into the community. I have never met an Indigenous person who was not welcoming to a non-Indigenous person to like our gatherings. Like we just had like a round down dance out in Sutana with like Jesus and Tribe Society. Shout out to Tribe Society. Yay. Uh, um, but yeah, like it was moving. It was moving to like see the little ones like dancing like it was like and like as an urban indigenous person who was raised on urban indigenous hip hop, like to be able to like see elders listening to like our music, like what energizes us, and also hearing the bass of the drum. I want that experience to non-indigenous people because I know that if they truly get to know us, they will be more willing to fight for us and with us.
I hope so. Gosh, what a powerful message. I want to say thank you for coming on my podcast today. And I know, again, you're welcome back anytime. And I'm so grateful that we finally connected to be on here and that I just know we're going to keep moving on in community together too. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Walala, thank you.
I'm so grateful to have other voices come and, sometimes a different perspective helps other people hear it. So I hope that you share this podcast, share the words, share what you learned, so that more people out there will understand Indigenous perspective and points of view. Again, I'd already mentioned it in the podcast, but our monthly book club is coming up, and we're going to be talking about David Robertson's book about anxiety, All the Little Monsters. And if you are in the Calgary area and you are a settler that wants to do a little more, Reconciliation Action Group is there. We are always available for anybody who has a project that they need help on, need support on, or feel like they're concerned about it being settler led. We have Indigenous and non-Indigenous in this Reconciliation Action Group to do more. And if that is something that doesn't work in your lifestyle, also know that there are committees. There should be committees in every business, every sports club, everywhere. They should be everywhere. And so if you don't have one, you can start your own. You can start your own book club. We have the Settlers Book Club. We have my book club. There's so much you can do. So never feel paralyzed because there's so much work to do. Masicho to my ancestors, to my granny, to my mom, of what strength looks like through your examples. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt, my stepmom for showing me a proud culture through her Austrian roots and teaching me to be a proud Calgarian. I want to say thank you to my husband, Darcy. He has produced and edited this show, but he is also my husband, childhood friend, father of our child, and he has witnessed decades of racism, sexism, and now we're understanding ableism in a different way and working through that. And to our child, we are so blessed to have you in our lives. We cherish you. We learn from you daily, and you give me accountability to be a better person every single day. I hope my family will be proud of us discussing these issues as they go down this journey together of reconciliation and treaty understanding. I want to honor the Blackfoot. I'm on your land. Let's start there. But the elders and members have been very kind to me on my Red Road journey. My elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Blackfoot, and my Satu Dene name was taught to me by Leonard Kenny. My humblest apologies to all language keepers as I try to learn proper pronunciation. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, or you can send in your comments or questions. I also have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. You can go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is that it has been a full year now since we've had our little trinket. And if you listen to my TikToks and I try to upload them on all the socials, you'll hear dogs snoring. I think that Trinket and Hugo are just like regulars on all of my socials now with their snoring. And I hope you enjoyed that and the squeaky toys and all of the fun stuff that they bring. And I'll always then giving side eye to those Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not your dish. And my beautiful cousin responded once, or you'd be in my dish. Say hi to your ancestors for me. Thank you for listening.